Lights, camera, action.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another review, and today we're going to be talking about the newest Steven Spielberg movie, Disclosure Day. So Disclosure Day follows a guy who is pretty much on the run from this company that he used to work for because he has a bunch of government secrets that he wants to release to the public, and along the way he runs into Emily Blunt's character, and they get really caught up in this whole almost espionage type movie. I'll be honest, I have never seen a movie that is so all over the place than this movie is. It's either most of the people and the reviews I've seen for this movie have been absolutely negative. So I was literally scrolling just trying to find like some positive reviews last night just to see if some people felt the same way I did. There was a few people on my wavelength, thankfully, but for the most part, most people was really negative on this movie. We're going to talk about everything in between, and is this Steven Spielberg's best movie? Well, we're going to talk about that. Starting off with some stuff I really enjoyed about this movie. One being, I really enjoyed the camera work in this movie. I think the camera work is really great. I think the way that they do certain shots, there's a certain shot with a train, for example, you've seen in the trailer, that almost kind of calls back to some of Steven Spielberg's other work, his earlier work. So I loved how that they did that and how he did camera movements. Not even that, it's even with like some of the characters. There's a great shot with Josh O'Connor where he's outside of this like farmhouse, and when these agents show up, he's kind of having to sneak around in this field. And the way that the whole camera just follows him and pans around him, and it's almost like a oneer, but it does like this whole shot where it goes with him everywhere he moves. Really well done and really appeasing to the eye, and it really just kind of adds that extra flavor to a movie, and it's something I really enjoyed. And you have camera shots like that really throughout this entire movie. Like, I think it's beautifully shot, it's beautiful to look at. And especially, like, I didn't get to see this in IMAX. I saw it in the Dolby, but I can only imagine in IMAX. It's probably about the same way, but there's just beautiful shots like that pretty much throughout this entire movie. The other thing I really enjoyed was the story. I know that seems to be a big downer for a lot of people, but I was really intrigued with this story. I was really drawn into it. I was really invested in everything that was going to happen. Yes, we already know the answer to what's going to happen, but I don't know, something still in that really invested me and really worked for me, and I found myself really on board. And this is coming from somebody that the trailers really didn't do a whole lot for me. So I thought the story was interesting. I liked how, essentially when the movie starts, you have three separate characters you're following. You have Josh O'Connor, then you have Emily Blunt, and then Colin Firth's character, who you're all, at some point you know that they're all going to meet together, but you have these separate stories going on through the beginning of it, so it has to kind of pivot between each story that it wants to tell. And I was really on board with all of it. Like I said, I was really hooked and into it. And I liked how when it cut from one story to another, it never felt like really whiplashy. Like, it felt like you're watching totally separate movies. It found that balance really well to where it led into the other stories. It knew when to cut away from the current story it was telling. And it did a good enough job with that as well to where I was so invested with one person's story that when, it cut off to go to another person's story, I was never really like, now I have to follow this person. I was never really felt that way. Like I said, I was invested in all these characters, and I was really curious to see how they were all going to come together and meet, and what each one of those characters really kind of represented in the story. And the same goes for the acting. The acting, that whole element's going to kind of be in the positive and in the mixed negatives as well. So it's kind of going to be a little bit all over the place, but bear with me. But as far as the acting, I like Josh O'Connor. Like, I've enjoyed him in the stuff that I've seen him in. Granted, I've only seen him in like two other movies, but I've enjoyed him in the stuff I've seen him in. In this movie, while he wasn't, in my opinion, the most interesting character, he almost kind of was like this scared dog pretty much through the entire movie. He kind of played like that, kind of timid side to him, pretty much throughout the whole movie. But I was still invested in his character. He's not my favorite character in the movie by any means, but I was still invested in what, these files or secrets or whatever he had, even though, like I said before, we already know what they are. But I was still invested. I was still invested what his end game was going to be if he's going to get to that point that he wants to get to in the movie. I was caught up in all that, and I really enjoyed what he brought to the movie. Same with Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt is the standout star of this movie. She steals every scene that she's in, from the stuff that she has to do where She has to have these like really funny, kind of lighthearted moments, and she has to have these really heavy emotional moments. But then there's scenes where she has to go back and forth between speaking different languages, like at the drop of a hat, and she nails every bit of that. Like, she is one of my favorite actresses of all time anyway. So seeing her in this movie, she was pretty much one big sell for me besides Steven Spielberg. But as soon as I saw she was in this movie, I was like, I'm absolutely going to see that. But she is incredible. She brings her A game pretty much in everything she does, so it's no exception here. But she absolutely kills it. And her character is my favorite character in this movie, because I liked how when the movie starts, her character is this kind of fish out of water. She don't know what is going on. So it was really interesting to watch her story progress as the movie went and see how things, got deeper and deeper into her story as things went on. So I really enjoyed that. She was fantastic in this movie. Coleman Domingo is really good. There's a lot of, we don't get a lot of him. He's kind of like the one that's kind of over this whole getting these files out there thing anyway. But he's great in everything he's in as well. The little bit that we do see him in, I think he's really, really great. I don't think he's just like Emily Blunt. He don't miss with anything that he does. So I really enjoyed the little bit of time that we got with him in this movie. Colin Firth, I'm a little bit mixed on because I really like him as an actor. I think he's a great actor. But in this movie, he felt like he was kind of more of the, he's a villain, but he's not the best villain. Like, I think he's given it all that he's got, but it's not my favorite performance by him. I didn't feel like his performance really did a lot for the story other than he's just trying to, get the files back from Josh O'Connor. Like, other than that, I was kind of just like, okay. Other than that, it's almost like one of those generic villains we've seen a million times, but Colin Firth still does great with what he's given. But it's just not a lot there. There's really nothing to him. You get a little bit of his backstory with like maybe something that happened with his wife later on, but it's very blink and miss it. So as much as I like Colin Firth as an actor, this is not my favorite performance by him. But that is something I will say for Colin's character that I do really appreciate. I like the fact that you see where he is coming from. Like, you can see things from his side of it and be like, I totally get that. I totally get where he's coming from. I totally get why he wants to, keep this stuff from getting out. I really appreciated all that. He was, as much as like I didn't care for the villain overall all that much, but I did appreciate the fact that we got to see things from his point of view, his side of it. Because I do believe that when you see things from different perspectives, it kind of divides you in a way where you're like, man, I agree with these people, but I agree with these people. And you're like, God, I don't know what the right thing to do here would be. So that is something I really did enjoy about the movie and that particular character overall. But there is a scene that is kind of later on in the movie when Colin Firth and Coleman Domingo kind of meet, that it's a scene between the two of them where it's a very good scene. I think the dialogue exchange between the two actors is very great. I think what they're talking about is really relevant and really, I don't know, it really did something for me. And I just thought it was a great scene of two of these actors just going back and forth with each other. But I thought it was just a really great scene. With all that, there's even some really great action sequences in this movie. I think there's some really great sequences with there's a couple car chases that are really great. There's a scene in particular with a train where somebody's trying to push them into a train. I think the way that they go about shooting that and the way that they do it, I think it's beautifully shot. But it creates such great tension. There's a lot of tension in that scene, at least that I felt, that really carried throughout all of it. And I thought it was just a really well done, really great shot scene. In the same way, of course, you got to talk about the score. I think the John Williams score is fantastic. There's something about the team up between Steven Spielberg and John Williams. When they're together, it's just magic. While I've seen that a lot of people did not like it or find it, all that intriguing or good or whatever, I really enjoyed it. I think it paired very well. I think John Williams, just like always, whatever scene he's trying to, do on screen, he elevates it with his music. And this movie, in my opinion, is exactly just like that. Whatever scene is going on, when you hear that John Williams score kick in, it just completely elevates the scene. It takes it to another place. So I think the two of them together, as always, it's magic just like it always has been. The thing I like about this movie is that it has hints of that classic Spielberg, feel in there. It has some of those elements of his other, earlier work in there. But this movie is not like a full-on alien invasion movie. I don't know if a lot of people kind of expected that from this, but it is more of like this spy espionage movie where, these people have these files and they're trying to get to a particular place and whatnot, and, you have the opposite team that's trying to stop them from doing that. And for me, I thought it created this really unique cat and mouse, back and forth throughout the movie. Something that I really enjoyed. And like I said, for whatever reason, that really worked for me. I can't speak for everybody else. A lot of people thought that Steven Spielberg should really hang it up after this movie. This is the worst movie he's ever done and things like that. And I don't feel that way. Like, I don't think it's his best work, obviously not in a million years, but I still really enjoyed it. There was something in this movie that worked for me, and I found myself really engaged with the story and everything that was going on. So I might be on an island with this movie, but I have this tendency where I've noticed over the years that I tend to really enjoy movies that a lot of people don't like, so maybe this is one of those movies that's going to fall into that category. I also really enjoyed the overall arcing message of this movie. I know, again, that seemed to be something that a lot of people did not like at all, but I thought the theme of the movie was really good. I actually really enjoyed what they were trying to say, what they were going for. And never once did I think things were really heavy-handed. Like, a lot of people thought there's a whole thing of religion and that whole aspect in this movie that makes you kind of question stuff and whatnot. And people found that really heavy-handed. I didn't at all. Like, I don't know. Like, I've seen versions of things that are very heavy-handed in movies and messages and whatnot. And this movie didn't come off at all like that to me. But everything's different for everybody else. But I didn't feel that way at all. But I actually really enjoyed, everything that's going on. And it could be one of those things, too, to where the particular time that we're living in now and everything that's going on, whether it be, the craziness in the world or whatnot, this movie kind of has a message about certain things, and it's kind of entangled in that with this whole story that's going on. And I don't know. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. I even actually really enjoyed the note that it ended on. I thought the note that it ended on was really good. It was one of those notes to where it made me feel something. Like, I sat through the credits and just kind of thought about it. It was one of those things where I sat there and really thought about some things, and I don't know, it just kind of hit me in a certain way. And I'm glad to see I did see two other people that did feel the same way I did. And it's the same way. There's a particular scene in the movie where when Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor first meet for the first time, that the two of them meeting, the stuff that follows after, I found myself weirdly emotional really through the rest of the movie. And I don't know why, but I found myself very emotional, where I was just like, man, I don't know what it is about this movie, but it's got to be something with Steven Spielberg and his, his writing and his directing and whatnot, like his storytelling. Like, I just found it really moving in certain parts. And I don't know, maybe it's just a me thing. It resonated with me on that level that it seemed to make me emotional from that point on until the end of the movie. And with that, there is scenes in the third act of the movie that also made me feel emotional, made me feel something. And that has to be, with the overall message that's trying to tell and whatnot. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with this. There's a great, I don't know her name, but there's a great actress at the end of the movie who's playing a news anchor, and how she goes about delivering the lines that she's given and the emotion that she gives off. As an audience member, I couldn't help but to feel every single thing that she felt. Like, I felt her emotion. I felt everything she was trying to portray. As an audience member, I felt all that. So she sold that like crazy. I wish I knew what her name was, but she was fantastic in that part. Like I said, she's only in it at the end for that little bit of coverage for the news or whatever. But in that little time, what she's able to pull off and make me feel personally, that's awesome. Like, I think she did a fantastic job with that. But like I said, overall, the message of the movie really worked for me. Like I said, it's something on an emotional level that kind of hit me. And like I said, I'm probably on an island with this, but it really worked for me, and it made me feel something. And like I said, when the movie ended, it's one of those ones where I just kind of sat there through the credits. I didn't even pull out my phone to see if anybody had texted or if I had any notifications or anything like that. I just sat there. And really thought about things, even walking in my car, leaving the lobby, all that stuff. I just sat there and really thought about the movie and the messages and the themes of it. And I walked away enjoying it. So, like I said, I'm probably on an island, but it just worked for me. And this is not Steven Spielberg's first, rodeo with aliens. And I felt like, each one of his movies that he's done has kind of tackled something different, where this one almost has that nod of, yeah, that we've already had that first encounter. They've already been here, and most people have already known that. but like it's the message of what information is actually available to us. And I think it asks a really cool question of, what would it do to humanity if they knew that aliens were here? Like if that information was out, like would it work well? Would it completely just, absolutely divide people? Would it be good for humanity? Would it kind of like divide everybody's thing with this theme of religion that they're going for in the movie? Would it make people question that? And I really enjoyed all those things. I thought, like I said, it was never heavy-handed, but I just thought like the way that they questioned all that and the way that they gave that information to the audience, it was something I really grasped onto. I really enjoyed it. And I think most movies like that has things like this going for it in the movie, I think it leads to really great conversation pieces. Like you could go see this movie and come out of it and really sit down and kind of have a conversation with somebody about it, because what you got out of it could mean something entirely different to that person. And I love movies that do that kind of have that message where different people can take different things from it, because it's just amazing the discourse you can have with conversation with that. And I absolutely love that. Now moving on to some of the mixed elements and the negatives about this movie. One being, absolutely, I've seen everybody's complaints about there being these massive plot hole conveniences and these narrative conveniences where things just kind of work out. Totally get that. There is multiple of that in this movie. I think there are multiple scenes that you're kind of just like, yeah, okay, I totally understand that. Like there's one scene in particular where the girlfriend of Josh O'Connor they kind of go their separate ways, and there's something really big that she has that obviously that Josh O'Connor doesn't have, but it's something that they are very much looking for. So for the rest of the movie, they kind of just stop looking for her. They're kind of just all focused on Josh O'Connor, and I'm like, okay, so when that happens, things work out obviously conveniently near the end of the movie. So, but in that time, I was just like, why aren't they looking for her? She's the one that has this, thing that they need or whatever. So this is just one example. There are multiple examples like that where things just kind of work out. There is multiple times in this movie where you will have to kind of suspend your disbelief a little bit. You're kind of just like, you kind of just have to roll with it and be like, okay, it is what it is. Now, I know for a lot of people that can be a big ask depending on how big of the circumstance that is. And while in this movie there is some of that can be really just enough to take people out of the movie, and I completely understand that and agree with you, besides a couple things, I was kind of just like, it's fine. I'm still on board for the movie. I'm still here with the movie, and I'm still very curious how this movie's going to end. It's the same with, I honestly believe that this movie, the trailer might have been very misleading for this movie. I think maybe a lot of people went in thinking this was going to be a straight-up alien invasion movie. And like I said, it is not that at all. So very much temper your expectations. This is more of a movie about this particular company hunting down Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt because of what they're trying to reveal. So like I said, it's got that like kind of like espionage, old school feel to it a lot of the time. And so if you're going and expecting aliens from start to finish, very much temper your expectations. And honestly, the same thing goes for how I feel about the ending of the movie. Like, I totally understand where people are coming from with that. I get it that people are like, yeah, no shit, this stuff we already knew, and this movie feels like it's way too late. I get all that, but like I said, for whatever reason, all this stuff just kind of worked and really, it just mixed well and really worked with me. This movie really doesn't answer a lot of questions. It kind of leaves things more open-ended to where it kind of leaves everything up to your own interpretation of things. And I really appreciate movies like that. I know it doesn't work for a lot of people, which is why it's in my mix thing. But for me, I liked it because it kept that conversation going that I talked about earlier about all these intriguing things that it makes you ask yourself. And I really like movies that do that, for example, because it really, like earlier when I was talking about it asks you all these questions, it makes you really sit and think about things and really kind of, reflect on certain things. And for me, not having all that stuff answered kind of made me think on things a little bit more. But it's kind of cool because it's almost the same vein as like what our screenwriters like David Koepp and Steven Spielberg, like what they know. It's limited to their knowledge of things too. So like it's like they choose to leave certain things up to interpretation. And like I said, I know that can easily piss a lot of people off. But it's like because we as a human race only know so much about things. So they chose in that moment to really not come up with answers themselves, but leave it up to our interpretation. And it's something, I don't know, I appreciated about it. Biggest negative that I have about this entire movie is the CGI. I think the CGI is bad when it comes to some of the animals. I think for the most part, like the little cardinal you see is the best looking animal because the way that they go about shooting, sometimes it's far away. Even if it's a little bit close, it's a little wonky, but for the most part, when it's further away, it really works. But for like the deer and the fox that you see at one point in the movie, you can tell like it's just almost looks like a PS2 graphic or a PS3 graphic, somewhere in there where you're like, this just looks like a cutscene from a game somewhere. So it did not look real. And I'm like, this is coming from Steven Spielberg, from the guy that made dinosaurs look realistic as shit in the 90s. So it's like, how? So I might be on an island with this. This is one that seems to be all over the place. I've seen people from I've never seen a movie where the needle just moves back and forth, where I've seen everything from first 2 acts suck, but the ending is really good, or the ending sucked, but the beginning was really good, or this was terrible, I hated this. So I'm telling you, man, it is all over the spectrum of where you land. So I think this movie will depend on just who you are, what your tastes are. I don't know. That's the thing. I've never seen a movie, especially a Steven Spielberg movie like this, that has been so on the negative. So I don't know where a lot of people will land on this. For me personally, I really enjoyed it. A lot of the story beats worked for me. I thought the overall message was really good, and it really kind of touched something in me, I guess. So this is one that I don't know to recommend or not, because I don't know how people will feel about it. The only thing I can do is give my opinion on it. This is how I felt about it. So I got to be honest. I know everybody, for the overall majority, a lot of people, this movie is very negative. So depending on who you are, if you wanted to go see this movie, by all means, go see it. Go check it out. Go have the opinion for yourself. The only thing I do in these videos is tell you my opinion on it. I just tell you that if I liked it or disliked it. But at the end of the day, the opinion should be up to you. If you want to go see the movie, by all means, go see it. Have a great time with it. Love it, hate it, whatever. That's the beauty of art. It says, if it's a movie that you really want to see, don't let the negative reviews or don't let any reviews like really kind of justify your wants to go see it. If you really want to go see it, go see it. But thank you, everybody. That is my review for Disclosure Day. If this is a review that you're finding me on, please come over to the channel and check out all my other 2026 reviews, if you will. And if you have seen Disclosure Day, please let me know what you thought about it, because it would be nice to see a little bit of positivity. But, like I said, I get where people are coming from, but nevertheless. And let me know what your favorite project that Steven Spielberg has ever done. As much as I love his movies, mine would probably be the Indiana Jones films, the original 3. I love those films so much. They're so near and dear to my heart, so those hold a special place for me. So that would probably be mine, but I'm very curious to what yours would be. And as always, if you don't hate me because I actually like this movie, please come over and remember to like, comment, and subscribe. That way I can see all of you in the next one. Thank you so very, very much.